Good morning, folks.
Have you seen the report?
All right, folks. So let's get started. So today is going to be the last session. I just have a couple of topics left. So I think probably by 11:15, 11:15, I think I should be able to wrap up this class. So I think before we move on to the session, I think there are some assignments posted by Sarah. Sarah, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so you basically embedded the BRD, FRD, everything into this?
Yeah.
Okay. So where did you get this template?
I Googled it.
I think this is the template made by NYU, because I had the same template when I used to do my last assignment.
Okay. This is what?
Word, right?
This is Word, but they downloaded a sample template on that. Assumptions. For what are we documenting the assumption?
For the system.
Oh, okay, okay. The second one is, I don't think is relevant.
Oh, okay.
Client C capital,
Oh, sure.
account A capital, customer C capital. Oh, you have written use cases for this, is it? Okay.
Yeah. The table is still continuing on the next page as well. For some reason, I could not join the table, even though it's one, it's just separate.
Oh, that's okay. So you have referred to the types in other documents. Okay.
Yeah, just to just for an example, but that was the link that showed up when I tried to preview my the Xure version on online, so that's why I just put it out.
Okay, so upon clicking the next button, system displays the list of all the. So which radio button is he selecting?
The one that's in the work with the client page.
See here, you said there are 4 radio buttons, right? These are the buttons, and you are telling me that he clicks this button, next button, and it displays place. But which of this radio buttons did he select? Which of the search criteria did he select?
Oh, I need to explain all this.
See, the primary core should have one flow, right? Did he select the client user ID or account number or name, banker name? What did he do? Okay, always remember, when you are documenting a primary flow, and here in this context there are 4 flows actually, right? You could select the account number or name or user ID, any of them, right? So in this case, what you have to do is you have to select one option and complete your basic flow. Okay. Then in the alternative flow, for step 3 of basic flow, if user selects account number, what happens? If user selects client name, what happens? Right? If user selects in step 3 of the basic flow, if user selects the banker name, what happens? Right? So remember, you have to always select one flow at least and make it a basic. Right? So if you are saying that this is pre-selected, then by default this is so the basic flow. I would go ahead and finish it with the ID, and then the alternate flow I would capture the remaining details.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So you did not capture that. So.
Right. Let's say she proposed this, right? She handed it in. So quickly go over it and. I didn't get it's our job, right, to make it right. Let's say, just like she didn't put that in, the button to click. And that happens to all of them. Then what?
Each go ahead and edit it. I mean, if you have missed it, then normally every document will be reviewed by the business users. So what you'll do is once you write a particular version of a document, let's say you document 2 reports. Then you basically will set up meetings and you will review each and every sentence that you have written. Of course, every sentence will be reviewed. Someone is going to review, approve, or give their recommendations. Then based on that, you have to make it.
We all miss. Have that ever happened?
Everybody misses?
Yes. Misses, and then it coming back from the test.
Correct. Yeah. Then that would be then that will be treated as a change request. Whatever, depending on the type of issue.
Otherwise, we are taking a template of our own. I see that there are a lot of points. Sometimes they are not relevant to us, so we can
just so if something is not relevant, then not applicable. But don't delete it from the template. You remember, whenever a section in the BRD or FRD which is not relevant, always say write it not applicable, but don't delete that particular section.
Yeah, that's what.
You cannot do that. Don't do it. Anyway.
Looking at that, I think the business steps come back. How this also, what about this?
Okay. I think this is good.
Template would have just this bold letters. And each letters. That's the help. You have to think.
This is more of a functional specification.
I didn't get you.
Okay, now question is what happens if the authentication fails? Okay. So where is that details? That details is not yet.
Okay. It needs to be described in the functional, not in this one, in the use case.
No, that's right. Whatever you have written is fine, but where is the other information that I'm asking for? Let's say if it is failing for the second time.
I
oh,
think
you wrote it an exception. Okay. You wrote it here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, she is documented an exception saying that normally people will know, so that's very much needed. That's fine.
Yeah, and I needed something to put in the exception as well, so that's why.
Okay.
So in the CRD, I did not know what else to put in the other REST columns.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay.
That's required. What did she say? What should
she just took some template and she put
right. What would the NYU put?
This is a business requirement, right? The template could have so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the UI screens?
Those are below. I mean, you have to scroll down. Yep,
That
this is the one.
do with X0, right? The mockup.
There's one more page upward. I mean,
What is the client create a client account? What page is this?
It's the beginning page. I just didn't want to, drop in the page where you just have work with the client.
Okay. So client profile creation page where you prompt the user to enter the details, is it?
Yeah. Can you please go to the page above this one? There you will. Yeah. So here, this will be the first page that opens, and then you can select if it's the existing client or a new customer. If it's an existing client, it will take you to the work with the client, and then if it's a new customer, it will take you to the created account page. Yeah. So this is where the client is the new customer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here she took a scenario where the client is registering and how he ends up on the screen where he has to enter the details.
I think it's better to put.
You need both.
You have to need both.
Okay, but I think she doesn't give the picture. You see, this is so whatever you have written here, right? This is not getting this is kind of a pseudocode. You don't have to write this. Yeah, this is not required.
Okay.
Not required. This is more for the developers or technical team. This is not for you.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, yeah. But I think overall, it's good.
So that page was for when the user does not enter correct or invalid client's name, so that the invalid page occurs.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I think good. It looks like you have spent a lot of time, but overall, I think I'm satisfied.
I think the timing was like 3 a.m., like 3:45.
Yeah. Please look for all the spelling. Because when I start looking, the first thing is I find mistakes.
I was so much into trying to make it functional that I did not get time to correct the mistakes. I will correct it.
One of the most basic important thing is whenever you finish your documents, first thing is spell checking. Without doing a spell check, never ever send it to anybody.
Right.
Sure.
This is a draft, right? So you go over it, and they can see. So this is about
create my. You're not creating new address, right? You are basically. She used this screen. She used Auxer, right? What did you use?
Yeah, I used Auxer.
I mean, you're not creating an address. You are basically ship to new address. It's not create new address, right? You're not creating new address.
Ship to
you
new
can say
address.
Ship to new address.
Yeah, sure.
Use the existing address or you ship to new address.
Okay.
Okay, good. I think overall, this have done a good job. Or is the flow chart?
It's a very long flow chart. It did not fit into my Word document, so I had to create a PDF.
Did you use Visio? What did you use?
I could not download my Visio because I already had the previous version and then it expired. My computer was having some problems, so I found some tools online, just like that works like Visio, so I just used that.
Yeah, okay. Good. Wait. Where are the labels? Where are the labels for this? Yes, no, I mean, when is it going to our process? When is it going to other?
Yeah.
We have to have labels, right? So labels are this.
Yeah.
Is it red?
Yeah, take the right on red.
That's if it's not I mean it's not true.
But I would say always label it.
Sure. Yeah, I thought I labeled it.
I was not able to see the colors. I'm not able to identify.
So the red arrows means if it's not true, and green means if it's true.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Oh, here I labeled it.
Yeah, so here it makes sense.
I must have.
The thing is, I was not able to identify what you're trying to say because I was not able to distinguish that it was red. Of course, green, it looks green, but the other color I didn't know.
But instead of writing yes, no, every word, you do or says red means white, just like the weather will say.
Well, you can do it. You can do it, but see, what if some of the users, you're projecting it on a screen, and let us say some of them are not able to distinguish. These guys are in their mid-50s. Let us say they are not able to see the screen. They'll say, what is this all about? They wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do it in the next meeting.
We can be carried out to the other paper also. Right. Good. I think overall, I think you have spent a lot of time. Good.
Yeah. Then the problem with me was it was so long that I forget what I was about to do when I'm doing something else. It was like too much.
Right. All right. So let's quickly jump into the rest of the topics that we have to take care today. I'll say a couple of them. There are two topics, as I said. One is the data mapping and data analysis, followed by requirements traceability measures. So let's start. Okay. Data mapping. What is data mapping? why do we need to perform this data mapping, who performs the data mapping, and where would we capture the data mapping, and in which format of requirements is data mapping captured. I think these are concepts that you will know. But just to let you know, the definition of data mapping is mapping the data source to the destination. I repeat, mapping the data source to data destination. Okay, so what is data source, what is data destination, and what is mapping? I think these are concepts that you're going to learn. So before I actually deep dive into this data mapping concepts, I want to take a quick step back, and I want to discuss about technology, because being a business analyst, we will end up working in the industry. So it is very important that you understand what are the technologies that are used to develop these software applications. Right? So some of the most popular technologies that are used currently in the market. Java, .NET, SAP, and so on. There's so many. There's so many technologies. I wouldn't worry about learning these technologies. Yeah, C++, Python, so many of them. So many of them, right? There are so many technologies. So in the process of developing an application, the technology team would be using any of these technologies for developing the software solution. Okay? So as a business analyst, as I said, I wouldn't worry about what is Java, what is .NET, what is SAP. That is not something which I would be worried about. So I'm not going to get into how these technology works. But however, another important aspect, very critical aspect that you need to know is every technology needs to have database. Every technology needs to have a database where the data can be stored. So when you develop an application, the goal is to automate the process, right? Automate a business process. So when you're automating a business process, you may have to store data, right? You may have to modify data, delete data, update data, right? There could be so many different operations that you may want to perform on data, right? And first of all, if you have to store data, where would I store data? Because these remember, the technology that is being used, Java, .NET, it's implementing the solution, right? So it's basically an application. These technologies provide an application software with which you can implement the solution. But in the process of implementing the solution, you need a repository, or a content manager where all the data can be stored. So by using this technology, I'm building solutions, right? So by using this technology, when I'm bringing data, technology helps me fetch the data. But I need a place where I can store this data. Yeah. So that is basically our database. So database, now what is a database? Database is nothing but a collection of relational tables, where data is stored in rows and columns. I repeat, database is a collection of relational tables where data is stored in rows and columns. Okay. So
it's a matrix.
Before I go ahead and explain what does this table mean and how the data is stored in rows and columns, I want to take a quick step back and I want to quickly explain what are the different type of database technologies that are available in the market. Okay. The most popular is SQL Server. Right? So one of the most popular technologies is SQL Server. It's also called as SQL Server. Okay. And we also have, yeah, Rahul, go ahead.
So this is essentially matrix analysis, isn't it?
I'm sorry, what analysis?
Matrix.
What do you mean by matrix?
Well, that is the definition of a matrix. A matrix has rows and columns, and
no, he's
you
talking
store
about
data within the matrix.
Database, and what is database is SQL. It has nothing to do with matrix.
I'm not sure if I understand what you mean by matrix.
That is the technical definition of matrix. Matrix consists of rows and columns, and those rows could have alphanumeric characters, or columns could have alphanumeric characters.
Okay, got it. Yeah, you're right.
So we are performing like a matrix analysis on a given data.
Yeah, if you can give me a couple more minutes, I think I'll show you how it looks like. I will get there.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'll show you the matrix how it looks. Alright. So the different type of databases available in the market. The popular are SQL Server, Oracle, Sybase, Access, and so on. Okay. So now, what are these databases exactly used for? This database is used for storing, managing, updating, deleting, and modifying data. Okay. Now here, these are the different database softwares that are very. Folks, please mute yourself. Correct. So here, in the process of storing the data, there are several, just like the technology is used for implementing the software solution. We have different type of database products as well, which can be used to store, modify, update, or delete data. Okay. Now, simple example: .NET is a Microsoft product, right? So when you are implementing a solution using Microsoft .NET, normally what they do is they always go and they connect to the SQL Server. They always use the SQL Server database, because what happens is, as it is coming from, both are coming from the same vendor, Microsoft, it basically makes it very easy for integration. Okay, Java, it's a Sun product, right? And normally most of the Java applications are always connected to Oracle database. So you implement the solution using the Java technology, and the backend, which is implemented using the. Now, why would they do this? What are the pros and cons? I'm not worried about it. This is just for your information. Okay. Now, so when it comes to this database, so let's try to understand how data is stored in the database. How is it organized? How is it really, massaged, and how it is modified and stored in the database, and how does a table look like? So all these are different concepts that we need to understand. Now, let's take a simple example of our Gmail registration. Right? So when you are registering a Gmail account, right, you enter all the details right on the registration page. You enter the first name, middle name, last name, then your date of birth, age, gender, all the information, right? Country, state, everything, and you click submit or you say register, right? The moment you say register, all your information is actually stored somewhere, right? But we don't know where it is stored, but we know that, okay, it is being stored somewhere, and you will have a new profile to work with, right? So the database, the data that you are entering, the registration data, it is actually being stored in the database. Okay? Now, how is it stored in the database? So, for instance, normally what happens is that data is actually segregated, and it is split into logical, data models, and it is stored in multiple tables. So, for a simple example, the registration details, I can store it into multiple tables. And now, how is it split, and what is the architecture behind splitting this and storing? That is decided by the database architects. Okay. Let's say we have a table. This is the name of the table. Okay. Remember, I said that data is stored in the database in the form of tables, where the data is split into, is stored in the form of rows and columns. Right. So let us say we have a table which is Gmail RD underscore RDG underscore client underscore personal table. This is the name of the table. Right. So I'll show you how this table or matrix looks like. You have user ID, first name, last name, then middle name, password, age, and gender. Okay. So user ID is ABC123, right? First name is John, Mackie, state, password, okay. So now we can have another table. You can have another table which is GeoDT, geographical detail, right? City, state, country, county, and that says zip code. Okay. Green Street, listen, state of New Jersey. Middlesex, zip Okay. Okay. So the registration information that you have actually entered on the registration page, the moment you click submit, right? We know that, as I said, we know that it is actually being stored somewhere. Okay. Now, where is it being stored? It is stored in the database. Okay. And in the database, how is the data being stored? In tables, relational tables. Now, the data, the entire set of the registration data need not necessarily be stored in one table. Normally, logically, always the architecture team splits the data into multiple tables and stores it. There is a reason behind that. We will talk about that in a minute. Okay. So for us, all we know so far is the data is being stored in the database, okay, in the form of in tables, and in tables particularly we are storing it in rows and columns. Right. A simple example of this registration is the moment you enter all the registration information on the screen, and when you say submit, it is actually being stored in these two tables. It is being split accordingly, and the information is actually stored in two different tables. Okay. Now, why is this being stored in two tables? How logically they are organizing it, that is up to the architects. That is not a BA. Okay. We will get there. Now, when you are storing this data into the database, it is very important that you organize your data in the database, because as part of our data storage, we are storing this into multiple tables. But one of the critical things here, as part of your data maintenance, is performance of the database. See, when you are storing so much information into the database, when you are trying to retrieve so much information in one table, it actually impacts the performance of the database. I repeat, if you are storing all the information in one table, from a technology perspective, it will impact the performance of the database. That's the reason they split the data logically, and they organize it or store it in multiple tables. Okay. So now, coming back to our data mapping. So now, when the user is actually entering a user ID in the screen, in the text box, right, and he clicks submit, that user ID is actually being stored in this column, the user ID column, right? So here, let us say the user has chosen a ID ABC123, and he has successfully registered. So that record is actually being stored in the user ID column. And the first name is being stored in the first name column. Last name in the last name column. Middle name, the password that he has entered, is stored here. Age is stored here. Now let us say if there is one more user who is registering, right, then the next record will be stored under it. Sorry? It could be, I mean, there are multiple records here. So, there could be more than one record. Obviously, there are millions of users who are registering, right? So each time a customer stores or registers, the data is basically split, and it is organized accordingly into the tables. Yeah, Rohit. Right.
Just a quick note, under the Gmail regular client personal, you wrote middle name, but you're only writing the initials, so either I don't know, should it say middle initial, or should it say middle name and then you write the complete name?
You mean the header of this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever is the business process, it's a middle initial. I mean, whatever is being captured on the screen, it exactly has to be the same. So, yeah, logically what you said is right. So, okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. It could be one. Yeah. I mean, if they want the middle name, then it has to say middle name.
There's no memorable line context.
Right. Okay.
The other advantage of having multiple tables is, like, that chart which we showed for the bank customer. Like if somebody has to enter the information there, if like we were entering from user ID, they can pick a name, first name, middle name, whatever, age it may be. In that, we did not need the geographical details, so it only picks that information which is required to be entered in that.
Did you ask me a question or are you giving a statement?
No, I'm asking you, like, then we'll give, like, pick up only those particular details which are required for the. I think it will not touch the other.
So part of this thing we're trying to tell us that this right here is how we manage, and this is how you have a job that we just explaining the basic knowledge of how it is stored.
Yes. Let me finish this, then I'll answer your question, because I did not follow your question. Okay? Yes. If you still have question, then I'll answer. Okay? Okay. So here we know that, so when the client is entering a particular ID, then we are basically storing it in the user ID column. So this exactly is called as data map. Okay? Data mapping is nothing but mapping the data source to the destination, right? So as part of this mapping, the very first thing that you need to understand is what is data source, right? In order to map the data source to the destination, you have to identify the data source. Where is the data coming? What is the data? Where exactly is the data coming? Right? So in this context, right, of the registration, where is the data coming from? The registration data from the user interface. So here the data source is the email registration screen, which is the user interface, right? And where is the destination? The destination is our database, which is where the data is stored in this table in the form of rows and columns. So now, as part of the functional requirements, so when you are documenting functional requirements, data mapping is also one of the very important exercises that you may end up doing in the real time. Okay. So now, with all this information, before I move on to the actual data mapping requirements, I want to also give you a quick update about the technology that is used for managing these databases. Now, this database, as I said, is a collection of relational data. So imagine it as a container, right? It's a container. Now, if you have to pour water in a container, you need a mug, right? If you want to empty the container, you need a mug, right? So if you want to perform operations on it, you need a mug to basically, pour or drain water out of the container. Similarly, here, database basically is a technology. It's a container, okay? But however, in order to perform operations on this container, you need some commands, right? That commands are nothing but your commands which are used for updating, modifying, deleting. These are the operations that you might want to perform on a particular database. In a SQL Server database or Oracle or any database, you might want to insert data, you might want to update data, modify data, delete data, right? These are the operations that you have to perform on the database. So here, depending on the type of the database, every database will have its own commands, set of commands. So for instance, SQL Server, the commands used or the language used to operate on the database is called as SQL. Okay, and what does SQL stand for? Structured Query Language. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Okay, Oracle, PL, the language used is called as PL SQL. PL stands for Procedural Language SQL. Okay, Sybase has its own syntax. MS Access has its own set of instructions. So every database will have its own set of instructions. Okay, and that instructions is nothing but your commands which are used for operating on the database. And these commands are called as DML commands. DML commands. Okay, now what is a DML? DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. So, at a high level, just to repeat what I just said, we have databases, right? We have different types of databases where the data can be stored, modified, and updated or deleted. And we have languages depending on the type of the database. Every database will have its own set of DML commands. And what are DML commands? DML commands are the set of instructions that are used to operate any database. If I want to perform operations on any database, I would need the DML commands. Okay, and as I said, depending on the type of the database, every database has its own set of DML commands. So, for instance, if you are using SQL Server, the DML commands that you would use is the SQL. If it is Oracle, it's called as the language is called as SQL. Now, these DML commands are very, very similar. When you compare with SQL or Oracle, it's very similar with a few differences in the syntax. But I think if you understand one of this language, then I think you can understand anything. I'll get into SQL very soon in the next 5-10 minutes. But before I actually get into SQL and show you how SQL works, what I want to do is I want to show you how the what are the different aspects that you would capture when you are documenting the data mapping required. Yeah. Procedural language. Okay. So we understand what is data mapping, we understand what is data source, we understand what is destination, and we also understand how to perform the data mapping. Now, if you have to really perform the data mapping, how would you go about? If you have to perform the data mapping, what is the set of information that you would capture when you are mapping the data? When you are performing the data mapping.
The elements. The data elements, metadata.
Shahab, are you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay. Give me 1 second. So attributes of data mapping. So when you are mapping the data, what information would you normally capture as part of the class?
Data elements.
As a business analyst, I just said that you will be performing data mapping, right? So when you are and data mapping always goes in the functional requirement. Okay. Now when you are documenting this, how would you go about? What information will you typically capture while you are documenting this data mapping? Is the question. Okay. So here the data elements.
Metadata.
Then we have the metadata.
Properties. Properties. Lengths.
So what did you say?
Lengths and the property, yeah. And the data source.
Hold on 1 second. The properties. The properties include length, data type, and so on. Then
data source.
Data source.
The database name.
Then database name.
Table name.
Table name.
Column name.
Column name. And
rules, special notes,
any additional rules, comments? Okay, so when you are performing this data mapping exercise, I think these are the set of, this is the base set of, minimum set of information that you need to capture as part of the data map. Yes.
Is this standard at the given?
It's pretty much, again, this is standard, and you will have templates. Normally, most of the data mapping is done in Excel sheets. I'll also show you one sample. Data element. Data element refers to the actual data. So, for instance, in the Gmail registration that we discussed, user ID is data element. First name is the data element. Middle name is the data element. All these are data elements. Data element is nothing but the actual data. Okay. Next, metadata. Metadata. What is metadata?
Description of data element.
Metadata is data about data, or you can also say description of data. Repeat, metadata is data about data or description of data. Okay, so for every data element, you have to document the metadata. You have to describe what exactly is your data. Now the question is why? Why do we have to describe the data? See here, the example that we have taken is the Gmail registration. We know what is user ID. We know what is password. We know what is first name. We know what is last name, right? But in certain business areas where the data is complex, you need to document the information about the data very low level. For example, let us say I have to document requirements, specifications for manufacturing a drug. Simple example. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm documenting requirements for manufacturing a drug. Okay. A drug, let us say, has 100 chemical components. If I have to manufacture this drug, okay, I have to basically combine all these 100 chemical components. Okay. So I'm going to document the specifications, and I'm going to tell the, as part of the requirements, I'm going to describe in detail, saying that, okay, these are the 100 chemical components that you have to use as part of the drug manufacture. Okay. But however, these chemical components, most of them, their namings probably are close. The naming is pretty much close, because if you, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar, but the naming standards are very similar, with the exception of the spelling. An alphabet could change the whole drug itself, right? Instead of putting A, if you are putting E, probably it's a different drug, right? And in those contexts, I have to look at what exactly that chemical component is. Right? I need to know what exactly that chemical component is. So it is good to have a description of what that particular chemical component is and what is it used for. Some description of that particular compound. So when I have that details about that particular data, it makes it easy for whoever is trying to combine this, because they see a difference, they want to make sure what it is, and they want to make sure that they are doing the right mixture when they are creating this or manufacturing the product. Let's take another example of Walmart, right? So Walmart, they actually manufacture so many, or they have an inventory of so much stuff, right? for a particular product, they may have a product number, product ID, product number, product version. What exactly all this? I mean, they look similar. Serial number. What is product number and what is serial number? Somebody should define what is product number. Somebody should define what is serial number, right? So all these data elements have to be very, very detailed, documented in low level detail. Right? So that's the reason we have something called as metadata. Metadata is nothing but description of the data. I mean, if you are taking the same example of what a last name is, the metadata is last name of the customer. Right? I mean, here we are capturing the last name of this customer, right? So all I'm going to do is last name of the registered client. Zip code of the customer. If you are looking at how we would document the metadata for this registration.
Do you have an example that's out there for that?
Which example?
Like a template that's already written like that on metadata?
I'm not sure if I have it. I'll see if I can show it. Okay. Any questions on the metadata?
You said metadata is basically is just a description of, like, you know, client last name, zip code, etc., etc. Right?
Yeah, correct. What exactly? Yeah, detailed description about the data. Okay.
Subhash, do we just document metadata as the way you said it? I understand that, okay, last name, we're saying last name, what last name? So we're saying, okay, it's customer's last name. So
Correct.
Do we just document it like that as well?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever is the, you know, in whatever way you could describe the data.
Okay.
This goes to the FRD.
And then in FRD, you actually mention it. It's the data name, yes, but name of the customer.
Correct. All right. Correct.
In metadata, we will describe each element of the data.
Correct.
And in FRD, there will be like a different, like a template for.
Yeah, you will have a section where you will embed the data map. Correct. Or if they don't have it, sometimes what they may do is they may have a separate sheet, Excel sheets or separate templates for data mapping. Okay. Now properties. Properties basically refer to the characteristics of the data element. The length. So for instance, the length of the data element. You know, whether it's 10 characters, 15 characters, 20 characters, what is the expected length?
So you're defining the, let's say, the user ID should be 8.
Correct. User ID, let's say, it's 8 characters. So, yeah, it's 8, minimum of 8, maximum of 16.
And the data type could be?
The data type could be alphabetical or numerical or alphanumerical integer, right? You know, if it is user ID, it is, the data type is nothing but the type of the data, right? That's the length. That's the length. That's the length. But the data type refers to the type of the data, right? So, for example, if it is user ID is always alphanumeric, right? You allow alphabets and characters, right? If it is a a currency, then it's basically integer, right? So basically, depending on the type of data, you capture the. Let's say if it is a name. Name is always a string. Okay. Now every database will have its own type of data. The data types are predefined. So once you get into SQL, we'll know what it is. We'll get there. But any questions on the properties? All right. Data source. Now, data source is basically where the data is coming from, right? Where exactly is the data coming from? Now, data source, there could be multiple sources for data, right? So, in this context of the Gmail registration, where is the data source? The client is providing it, but from where is he providing it? On the screen, right? So,
User interface.
User interface.
And database.
User interface. And again, in user interface, we have a screen name where we are getting this data from, right? So you may also want to document the screen name as well. Gmail registration screen, right?
The internal user who is entering the data, then that would be internal user.
So what are the screen name? Screen name. Now, okay, quick question. We were referring to the search, right? So the user enters the search criteria, okay, and you click next, and now we are populating the data on the screen, right? The question to all of you is, what is the data source for this particular search result space?
Database.
Yes, the database, right? Because we are, that's exactly right. Because we are fetching the data from the database. So in this context, the data source is the database. You enter the name and you click next search, and it's showing you some search criteria. Now, where is it populating the search from? From the database. The source, the data source in that context is the database.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when we have multiple tables, when we do data search or something like that, it goes only to that particular table. It doesn't have to go like to all.
So here, one source that we could think of from a data source perspective is the user interface. Other is the backend or the database, right? And also, you could probably get the data from external
data source.
Right? External data sources. Okay, what exactly do we mean by external data source? I'll give an example. If you want to apply for a credit card, right? So what you want to do is you call the customer service, right? And you give them all the information on the phone, your first name, last name, your social address, all the information. Okay? Now, before the card, so your credit card gets approved, your limit gets approved, they will check the credit score, right? Now, does the bank have your credit score up in their hands? No. And they have to get in touch with the external parties, which is credit bureau. It could be TransUnion or Equifax, whatever, right? Whatever they are partnered with. Let us say Bank of America has partnered with FICO, right? So for each customer, before they approve the credit card, they would go to FICO, fetch the credit score, and then decide whether they can, approve the card, and based on what the score, they can also decide how much amount will be approved. So you may see that, when you call the customer service, they may say, so please give me in a couple of minutes, please approve. I'm going to go ahead and submit the request for your credit score. Do you approve? When you say yes, they will have an option where they, make a single click with all the information, and your information is actually passed to the credit union, and the credit union is actually coming back to the system and giving your credit details. So here, the credit score is actually fetched from the external data source, wherever the data is coming from outside. That definition also has to be documented in the FRD as well. There won't be any screen for external data source. You will have something called as application programming interfaces, APIs. Okay, don't worry about that. I mean, you have asked the question I'm telling you, but there are external APIs which are used to fetch and send the data. Application programming interface, APIs. But don't worry about it. Just ignore. Forget that I just spoke that. But I think from a source perspective, all you need to know is there are three different types of sources. One is the user interface, and the backend or the database, or the external sources.
In case of external data source, do we need to specify which all external data source?
We have to know which data source, where the data are coming from. So that information you wouldn't know, right? So the developer or programmer or architect, whoever is working with you, so you will have to talk to them and you will have to document it.
Like the example which you just gave for credit card. The credit card external data source will be the FICO score, and then you have security logs. Like these days, some people lock their ID to open the card, so the information will go to the security log, for accessing whether the card can be opened or not. So similarly, we have to define all the possible steps.
I mean, an application can have 10 different external sources from where the data is coming from. So you have to document all that.
They're not only looking for score, they're also looking for credit history.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's description.
The description.
Yes. Last 7 years.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, you probably are connecting to 10 or even 20 or 100 different sources.
Yeah. So there'll be a server that makes that.
Okay. Now, database name, is when every database will have a name. You just go ahead and document the database name. And then how would you know what is the data source as part of your requirements gathering? So when you're gathering the requirements, you would know where the data is coming from and where the data is going. Yeah.
For example, the database name would be where you created the rows and columns right above it.
Okay.
There you go, Gmail or RG. That is the database name, right?
No, that's not the database.
What?
You can say the database name could be different. This name is the table name.
Okay.
And this is the table name. The database name could be different. ABC123, whatever they standards, they go ahead and keep the name. So the database, all these tables are under that particular database. So because we have to also tell the developers, or we have to also document it and make it very clear which database are we storing it, in which database, in which column, in which table, in which column. So that granular level of information has to be documented in the data map. Right? So here, there may be two databases where they may have same table names. Right? So let us say Bank of Uno has a credit card database system, and they also have a checking saving account database. Okay. Now, in the checking and saving accounts or in the credit cards, they will definitely have the customer ID. They'll have the customer name, right, and the customer details. The table name could be same, but however, the database names are different. So that is the distinction that they would do in order to identify the right database, right table, and right column. Dimensions, yeah. Okay. So again, see this information, the database name, the table name, column name, all this information will be provided to you by the developer. You wouldn't know as a BA. If you have to document the attributes of data mapping, you wouldn't be able to do it by yourself, right? I mean, you can probably define the data element, the metadata, the properties, data source, but rest of the information, the table name, database name, column name, rules, all this is defined by the developers. So you will be interacting with the architect, and you will fill the rest of the information.
Subhash, is it the developers or the database administrator?
The database architect.
Okay. Thanks.
For example, customer info, vendor info, right? Information.
Correct.
Right? Anything you need. If the company will define.
The number 5 page would be database architect. They are
the DBAs, yeah. The database architects are administrators. Or database developers, whatever you want. Okay. Rules and comments basically refer to any additional rules that you may want to think about. For instance, when your user ID is mandatory. When you're registering a customer, user ID you can say is a mandatory data element. Middle name is optional. I mean, these are traditional rules that could apply, right? Right?
As a DA, let's say now.
No, hold on a second. Some more rules could be, let us say the business rule is that you will have to only prompt the customer to capture the city name if the country is US. If the customer has selected USA as the country, then it is mandatory to capture the state, let us say. That's a rule. So in the database rule is, okay, just make sure as part of the designing the database, you have to make it very clear that, okay, the state name is mandatory only if the country is USA. So all those rules, any rule that is applicable will be documented here as part of the rules and terms.
But as a BA, right? You defined it in your SRD, you submitted it. Now you're waiting to get this back. Did you check into this, the database department, the architect department? How would you know that they already entered all this? The developer will do it, right?
No, I didn't get it. Come again?
Okay. Who will design? You said the data architect will do that. Now, the data architect is giving you prior to you documenting the FRD or afterwards?
In the process of documenting
the process. You have to actually wait on them to give it to you.
Correct.
Okay.
So they fill that in, right? Just right here?
You will basically interact with them and you will have to update all. They will give you the inputs. Someone has to give you the inputs.
But they would have physically, because now everything is online shared, I'm sure they would have access to this document, or they could just fill it in themselves.
They could fill it, but again, depends. They may say, I don't have time either, because you are the owner, you are the owner. It's your deliverable. They wouldn't care. Okay. Any questions on the data mapping, folks?
Is like when we are beginning to put in the data. Suppose in case of a bank, we already have a database. So we are trying to implement a new app. So basically all these data elements, metadata, all these will be fixed already. So then the developers.
But you still have to map and you still have to document. Yes. You may have it. See, you're still developing a new app. You have the source, you have the database, and you just go ahead and map it. Mapping is done. It should be mandatory. So once you get into this,
once you hands on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Including that.
All right. Now,
if I understand correct, data mapping is basically is like a form where you're writing.
It will be an Excel sheet. Now, let me try to show you a simple document here. I mean, again, as I said, right, you may have different templates, data mapping templates, and then you can go ahead and you can document it in any of the templates accordingly. Let me show you an Excel sheet that I have here. This is a very simple example of the data mapping sheet. The business term, which is the data element, the table name, the field name, the description. I think my business term probably is refers to the metadata. Right? The table name, the field name, description. Yeah. So there are a lot of templates out there. I think you might want to go do some research and see, but you will realize that whatever we have covered, you will be able to understand, and correlate to what we discussed here, for sure.
Who is well, over there? Is Danetta, like Gilbury? Who's that? Is that a business analyst personnel, or is that a company?
Which one?
is the structured information by?
Yeah, it's some individual. Some individual.
So at this point, like if we are doing this, we have to type in our things like that? Or?
Yeah. You will have different templates. This is just very basic standard template. But yeah, I mean, when you are documenting a deliverable, you will have a log where you capture, who the, author is. Okay, now, as a business analyst, it is very, very critical that you understand SQL. Okay, now SQL, learning SQL would probably take, assuming that you do not have any technical background, you would probably need not more than 2 days, or even if you probably spend around 3 to 4 hours a day, I would say you would need maximum of 1 week to learn about SQL. Okay, very simple. You do not need any prior programming knowledge or any background. Okay, so here now as a business analyst, your question could be, why do I need to learn SQL? Okay, now when you are performing this data analysis, I mean, you probably have to analyze data. You'll have to look at the tables and you have to, analyze the data. Or when you are testing, I said that as a business analyst, you will also be involved in testing, right? So as a BA, you may also probably have to perform backend testing. Simple example. Your job as a BA to test the Gmail registration screen, right? So you entered the details, the ID, password, and you click register. It says registration successful. Does it mean that the testing is complete? No. You also have to go back to the database, and you have to check the new registration that you just did. Is it being stored in the database? Right? Is it being stored in the right table, right column, right database? That is also the data testing that you have to do. Right? Now, if you have to go look at the data, you need to know those operations. Right? If you don't know the operation, then you will not be able to analyze and test it properly. You will be able to. You will be stuck only halfway through.
So in the test cases, you have to go through the.
Yeah, of course. That's part of the backend testing, though. But however, as a business analyst, you will have to analyze, and then you'll have to join tables, and you will have to, get the retrieve information.
For example, like right now, if you go on gmail.com, right click, you hit source, view source, and it shows all the tables and stuff.
Okay.
That's what we'll be basically working on. Is that how it?
If you confuse
but no.
the program language,
No, see, the thing is, right, here the data, the application is being created. The Gmail is already done, right? But in the real time, you wouldn't know where the data is. I mean, if you have documented the data requirement. If you have to analyze the data, you have to go to the database. You have to pull the data from the database. If you have to perform an operation on the database, then you need to learn those commands. Right? So I wouldn't recommend you to ask you to learn all the commands, but at least SQL is mandatory. If you know SQL, I think the rest of them will fall in line.
Let's say
it's very, very easy. As I said, right, any individual can learn SQL in span of 2 to 3 days.
Would there be a cheat sheet? Like it's all
I'm going to show you how to get there. So now you don't even have to install SQL at all. Most of you may be asking, how do I install? No, you don't have to do it. I'm going to show you a simple process.
So how do you like is that sort of one as a simple make it down, whether it's updates, lowercase, you do see simple. Basically SQL is not easy.
Okay, so we have this website, W3 Schools SQL. Okay, so there is a website which is w3schools.com SQL. This is a very simple website. You can easily learn. Any individual with zero background can learn SQL commands, syntax and commands, and also without installing SQL on your system, it actually provides an editor where it's a virtual editor where you can actually type the command and you can practice SQL. And I'll show you how simple and easy it is. Let me go ahead and copy paste this and put it in the chat. Yeah, it's free. All right. If you go to the left, there is a menu here. I click this top left, and this is the tutorial, right? These are all the topics, all the commands. All these are commands. Don't worry about creating the database. You wouldn't create database at all. So I would say select until the select into command, right? Probably there are around from top to bottom. Probably there are around 30 commands that you have to learn. Around 25 to 30 commands here. Inner join, outer join. Focus on join. Okay. Now let's start with the basics, right? Now here, select star from customer. So it's a very simple SQL statement.
Is this only for the Microsoft SQL or for PL?
This is for this. So this is for SQL. Only for this. Whatever I'm showing you is only for SQL. But the thing is, if you learn this, right, the syntax will be a little bit different, but you'll get it. It's not going to be challenging. But again, I'm not recommending you to learn everything. One SQL, more than that. Yeah, they may ask you in the interview. Okay. All right. So here, a very basic statement, syntax or command is select star from customer. So we need to understand what this means, right? So let's go ahead and try it up. Okay. So here we have an editor where we can type. Okay. Select. We know what select is. Star. Star means all. From customers. Customers is the name of the table. So what this means is, this command means select all from customers. This command means I want to see all the, list of all the customers who are in this table. Select all the customers from the customers table. Select everything. I want to see everything from the customers table. So if I run this, just say run, and you see that there are 91 customers in this table. Number of records is 91, which means that there are 91 customers in this table. Customer ID, customer name, contact name, address, city, and so on. And so much information. Right? Now, let us say, what are the different analysis you may have to do on this table? A simple example, let us say the business is asking you, okay, Subhash, go ahead and find out how many customers do we have in Berlin. The question is, in the city of Berlin, how many customers do we have? Okay, so all I have to do is modify this statement using the where clause. Okay, where city equal to Berlin. See, there is only one customer. There is only one customer in Berlin, right? You always have to put that's the syntax.
What happens if you choose your shoe size or buy this, right? So you're basically shortening your result.
Right. So let us say if I want to know how many customers are there in London, right? See? So there are 6 customers in London. So this is how I would go ahead and I would analyze the data. So if I want to know how many customers are in London who live in this particular postal code, so I'll say where city equals to London and postal code equal to XYZ, whatever. So in this way, I can analyze, analyze the data and analyze and retrieve the information. Now we are doing this only on one table, but as I said, the data is basically spread. The data could be stored in multiple tables, right? So in that context, you will have to learn joins and other commands. So once you go through this, trust me, telling you this is very, very simple. All you have to do is just focus and forget that you don't have any technology background. You don't need any technology background to understand. This is not rocket science.
Yeah. So when you're searching these ones, right, like that particular table of particular information, so those information is already loaded in, right? Like in the
yeah, this is a test data. This is dummy data. So the systems already have, the tables are already having data. Are you talking about here in this context?
No.
In the normal, okay, I think that's a good question. In the real time, depending on where you're testing, the programmers or the technology team will dump some dummy data, testing data into the servers for your testing purpose.
And like whatever is the result, so we're gonna just copy the path and the result for our report.
Yeah, whatever. You can generate reports out of this. There are so many things that you could do in the real time. But I think if you understand this, once you get there, you can figure out the next steps. Yeah.
Basically, if you don't know, if you forgot SQL, we could still go to the resource, copy that,
yeah, there are so many places where you can get syntax. Yeah. You Google it, I'm telling you.
How to search.
Yeah.
How to search.
Just learn the basics and you don't have to really, by heart the syntax. You can Google and you can figure out solutions.
You can create your own cheat sheet.
Yeah.
If we were to do, oh, by the way, that was my question. Do we have to do a flowchart of database or not?
No, you're not doing anything.
So,
or the SQL or?
I mean, if they want to test the data, they may have, yeah, they will write SQL, what you call test cases for background testing also. Yeah.
He's saying that he's learned it on Khan Academy.
Khan Academy, I heard it's also good, but I have never.
Or even
I've never checked.
Bill Gates' children, the Khan Academy.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard some. It became very popular in no time.
Yeah.
So.
SQL is something that
So you have to go through this portal, I guess. I have never used it, but yeah, I mean, if it helps, why not? Okay.
He has to do all the homework.
Khan Academy. Yes, yeah.
I'm going to create something for you. I need to go. Command and email.
Yeah.
The question is, you have to add it to know some kind of what about other
Don't worry about the rest of the database. Just learn SQL, that's more than enough. Yeah. Just, I would say learn all the basic commands, especially, from the top here, right? So like intro all the way at least till union or selecting. You'll be good.
If you go on those, you say from the beginning to union,
yeah.
Just join.
From beginning to union, yeah.
You don't have to go to create table.
You would never create tables.
Right.
What is the percentage use of SQL in the market? That depends on where you are, which project, what your role is. It depends. I mean, you may end up in a position where you would never use SQL, or you may end up using SQL from day one. So I would rather be prepared. You would probably always working on business analysis, never into data analysis or reporting.
How many? What is the percentage wise? Their kids will go versus Oracle. That's what I said. Like 80.
I mean, most of them are SQL because these days, these days it's a mixture. I would say SQL or Oracle. most of the time.
But that'll be in the job specification description when you apply for the job. It will say that this is required job for job.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So when you go to the job, then you will know.
See that
it does say that
it
it's required.
requires to know, to be familiar with.
Exactly.
Right.
Then
Right.
my friend got a job in medical field, and he never really had to use it because he had other BAs that was assigned that kind of job.
Okay.
So you're right. It could be just BRD or FRD and then everything else. Another BA is responsible to take care of it from there on.
But it could be the other BA.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, that's what it could be you or it could be someone else. But it's good to know everything.
Right. My question was the BA, right? Because you say we also have to sometimes work with the testing team and possibly test some of the products, right? So if you were saying in terms of percentage, because as a BA, what we mostly do is document it. Or which is the percentage of us having testing for the industry. Like, 75%, you do mostly 25%.
See, it depends. It depends on where you end up working.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And it also goes this way, right? That the BA that they've been had from day one might be the main person that they will assign to him to test everything, but he will be the leader for all the other BAs.
Because they know.
All right. So, moving on to the next topic. Until anybody has questions on what we spoke so far?
Vash, does these online practice tools cover all the commands and everything? It does give you some chance to practice, but this is a very basic database.
I think if you practice in wcschools.com and learn all the syntaxes, I think that is more than enough for you to get started.
Okay.
It would be nice to have a real tool and install in practice, but it's not practically, may not be possible for everybody. But I think at least if you get to this editor, what I've shown, and if you practice it, I think that that should definitely give you a very good head start, no doubt.
Because eventually you go on to an actual project, the database might be very complex. Also, there are very dangerous SQL commands as well. You don't want to mess the database.
No. See, here is the thing. See, as a business analyst, you are not writing queries to actually store data in the database. All you are doing is you are basically retrieving data. You are performing operations to retrieve and analyze data. As a business analyst, 99.999% of the time, you will never update any data in the data. Because you're not a developer. First of all, you will not get edit rights mostly. When I used to perform the analysis, because every database will have access levels. Some of them may retrieve data, some of them may modify data, some of them can delete data. So not everybody gets all the operations. As a BA, you have no business modifying or deleting. So they will not give you that access at all. Even if you try to mess up something, you're still good. The system won't allow you to do whatever you want to do.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you.
Right. Anybody else? Any questions, folks, so far?
Yeah, can you please explain what is the difference between inner and outer join?
I think we should definitely go look and deep dive into the tutorial, because if I start off with the joins now, I don't think you'll be able to understand. But just to let you know, to answer your question, inner join basically is a join. See, a join basically is a command which is used to retrieve data from two or more tables based on condition. I repeat, join is a command, is a SQL command used to join data from multiple tables. Okay. Now there are different types of join: inner join, outer join, and in inner join there are left inner join, outer inner join. I think I would recommend you to go online. Start from the basics. and then get there. You'll easily know what is inner join, what is outer join, what is left inner join, what is right inner join, what is left outer join, what is. I think these are things that you have to go step by.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just give me 1 quick second, folks. I think we the other topic that is left is the requirements traceability matrix. Probably we'll finish it in 15.
Hello. Oh, yeah. Positive reaction on SQL to like SQL, you don't need about usually that's advisory. You have like
come on, folks. Please start episode.
you will start next week.
Yeah.
You guys on break right now?
Yeah, we're starting. Give me 1 second. All right, folks. So the next topic is requirements traceability matrix.
Like,
No. Because it is. So requirements traceability matrix, I think this is one of the very, very important concepts that you need to understand as a business analyst. Now, when you are documenting requirements, or even from a interview perspective, this is one of the most frequently asked questions as well. What is a requirements traceability matrix, and how would you go about, what is the use of requirements traceability matrix, and how would you go about managing this requirements traceability? So all these are different questions that could be asked from an interview perspective as well. Okay. So a project, let us say, has 100 requirements. Okay. So how would you go about making sure that every requirement is identified, every requirement is documented, every requirement has a BRD, every requirement has an FRD, it has a use case, it has a CR, it has a design, it has a development plan, it has a testing plan, it has a test case, right? I mean, just identifying requirements will not help. You have to have a mechanism where you can track, trace, and manage every requirement right from the day one till it is tested successfully and delivered into the production or delivered to the customers, right?
Kind of like did a piece of your work.
So a requirements traceability, to define what a requirements traceability matrix is, a requirements traceability matrix is a matrix with which you track, trace, and manage the requirements, and you ensure that every requirement, every business requirement is identified and documented. You ensure that every business requirement has a corresponding functional requirement. Every business requirement has a corresponding design. Every functional requirement has a corresponding development. Every functional requirement has the test cases mapped to it. And every test case has been tested and verified. So from end to end.
So this is similar to like BRD, FRD, and the whole setup. And this is just another.
So this is basically a snapshot of the whole end-to-end project.
True, but BRD is one, like that's 200 pages, whatever. FRD is one thing, and this is a separate thing, which includes both of the BRD and FRD.
Not only the BRD, FRD, it will include in case if there is a CR, in case if there is a design, right? Every functional requirement has a corresponding design. So it will map the design. It will map, for every design you will have a development ID. For every development, for every requirement you will have a test case. So you will basically map everything together and put it in one snapshot. Yeah, so basically requirements is correct. So this is basically kind of a sheet which allows you to track, trace, and manage your requirements right from the inception, right from where you start till you go to the end. Because to start with, let's go ahead and look at this, and then we'll try to understand if we still have questions.
Isn't this part of project managers?
This is not part of project manager job. This is part of the business analyst job. Project manager will look at it. Let's start with the requirements, right? So when you start working on the project, the first thing what you do is document requirements, especially the business requirements. So once you start documenting the business requirements, if you remember what I said was every business requirement will have an ID, right? If you see this, right, this is the business requirement ID. So business requirement ID, the topic, the status, requirement name, description, So all this you have already documented as part of your business requirement, right? So once you have documented the business requirements, the key thing that you have here is the business requirement ID. Okay. Now, when you start the functional requirement, now this is one way of doing it. There probably could be 1,000 different ways of documenting a requirements traceability. But I think if you understand this, you're good. Okay. So now, when you start documenting the functional requirements, if you remember what I said was every business requirement will have a corresponding functional requirement. because without a business requirement, you will not have a functional requirement, right? And we see here, what we did as part of the functional requirements mapping, we have the business requirement here, and for that business requirement, we have mapped the corresponding functional requirement. See, here, this is the ID. So for this business requirement, we have the corresponding functional requirement. So far good, right? We made sure that all the business requirements are identified, and we also made sure that each business requirement has a corresponding functional requirement associated with it. So it's taken care, right?
So, how did you come to this page?
Go back to the business requirement.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. That's different.
Now, how did you get this table? I mean, was there a command or?
This is simple table. This is a format. This is a predefined format.
Oh, okay.
I'm not documenting this. This is a predefined template. Every organization has their own template, but I think if you understand this, you are good. Okay. Now, as per the functional requirements, you are already mapping the business to the functional, right? The requirement type, status, all our job to map. Yeah, this is your job to map. And now the next part is the life cycle tracking, which is the actual tracking. Let me maximize it. Okay. Now here, for each requirement, you have a description, and you will also have the release number. So this requirement, where am I going to release? I mean, I have to track end to end, right? Right. And for this requirement, the analysis. The release number, which you remember every software will have a release number. And it's just version 1, version 2, you know, all that, right? The release number and the date. Every software release will have a release version number and the date. That is predefined. That is predefined. Okay. The analysis. So when you are performing the initial requirement analysis or the process analysis as part of your analysis phase, you probably will have a reference document, right? So you will put the respective number associated with it. Because remember, when you are documenting requirements have been derived based on your analysis, right? So you put the analysis reference, and for each requirement, you will have a corresponding design, right? Every requirement will have a technical design, architecture design, right?
Analysis reference. What's your number? An example?
It could be any number like 1.0, 2.0, anything, okay, which is part of your
work.
Analysis, the planning and analysis phase.
This is like, let's say, sprints, modules, or it's for the whole thing? That's a waterfall.
Anything. Anything. Wherever you perform the analysis for that particular requirement, you basically go and map it. Map that number. Design here refers to the technical architecture design. Right. Yeah, Rohel, go ahead.
So these reference numbers, are they assigned by the technology team or BA?
Yes, they are assigned by the technology team.
Okay.
But I'm going to get there. Who documents it? We'll get there in a second. So for this requirement, the design team probably has already designed the architecture, right? And the design team would have already labeled a number for reference. Every design will have a reference. For every corresponding business requirement, we are documenting the corresponding functional requirement, right? Similarly, for each requirement, they would have designed the respective technical architecture, and they will also have a unique number, a reference number for tracking, right? That's how we track, right? So here, the design reference refers to the technical design reference, okay? And for each technical design, you will have a corresponding development deliverable. That is also called as build deliverable. Here, build stage or build deliverable refers to the development reference, development milestone. So for this particular design or for this particular requirement, what is the corresponding build number or the development number in which this code or this process is being implemented? So that reference number is documented in the respective reference section.
When you go look for it, I mean, let's say it's done and over with now. Now the project manager is going and looking for it. How would he know those numbers? Like a query, right? That's a reference somewhere to or the requirement ID. He would know because it's predefined.
See, the project manager will not get into all the details. He will make sure that everything is tracked, everything is mapped, for traceability. Okay. Now, once the build is done, then for each requirement, you also will have to test, right? So there should be a test case. So the test case reference is also there. So you will put the corresponding test case here, number here. And also, if you want, you can also document the test result also. So here, if you look at this sheet, it has everything. It has the requirement for that particular requirement. What is the functional requirement? When is it being released? Which version is being released? What is the analysis reference? What is the corresponding design for that requirement? What is the build or development ID for that? What is the test case for it? Has it been tested? What is the test result? So in this way, you can actually track, trace, and manage every requirement right from scratch till it is successfully implemented, tested, and delivered. Correct. It's a kind of a sheet where you can find end-to-end for tracking purpose. Now, a business analyst is responsible for documenting, managing, and documenting this sheet, number one. Number two, if there are multiple business analysts and there are 100 requirements, you may have only documented 50. So you will be responsible for documenting all the 50 and mapping it through end-to-end, and the other BA will take care of the other. Okay. Number three, the release numbers, dates, the analysis reference, the design reference, all these references are provided to you by the respective department. For example, I mean, I wouldn't know which requirement has which design. I don't know, right? So somebody from the design team will give me the inputs.
But how would you know that who did what? Is there a DA number, let's say?
Normally, you would know if they're working in the team. You would know who the people are.
Okay.
So it's been given by the architects of the business.
So the respective team members will interact with you, and they'll give you all the inputs that you need to get there. Yes.
One question. Say there is a big organization like a bank or somebody who has already implemented a project, and in that project they had 50 or 60 like BRDs, etc. Now, after some time, they feel that a couple of these are not good enough, and they want to improve on that or add some features in that. Now, say they were not happy with the company who did the job at first stage. So they will
release one. They did it, and they're not happy.
So they hired another company to do the enhancement. Now that company, second company, will take the reference of these PRDs and go ahead, or they will create their own these requirements chart on their own.
In that case, what they will do is they'll have one more template here, one more column here, enhancements of change request. Okay. So what will happen is, let us say, out of the 50 requirements that were implemented, let us say 5 of them changed. I don't have to touch all of them, right? Wherever I have changed, I will basically go ahead and put the respective CR number here. Okay. So in this way, there are 100 requirements, and I know out of these 100, 5 have changed. If there is a number, if there is a CR associated.
And it will be known that that was done by the company.
Yeah, whoever. They can document any information here. Yeah, you had a question. Analysis refers to the business analysis or the process analysis which was done during the initial phase. But again, you probably wouldn't even be putting this. This is a standard template. I think the main concept is the requirement, the BRD, the FRD, then the design, development, and the test reference. I think this is the mapping that you would be.
Okay. Now the CR change and then those links will change as well, right? When we
right.
Then there's no backtracking to that old version, or
you will have a backtracking. Why not? See, what happens is, let us say you have requirement 1.1, okay, BRD. So for this, let us say you went ahead and you documented, you mapped its TR which says TR 123. So basically, this means that okay, 1.1 is no longer the current requirement. So there is a change CR 123. So if I have to understand what this requirement is, I have to look at the requirement, actual requirement, and also the CR. So for instance, the initial requirement says that on the login page it has to be username. On the CR, it says user ID. So if I want to know what exactly it is, I have to look at both.
How would you go about adding the change to the design reference and stuff like that? The link?
Oh, you will basically have a corresponding change for the analysis change for the design. No, you will not remove. No, why would you remove the old? The old always remains.
Okay, so do we have to make another?
Yes, you will have another row here, and you will have all the changes.
For example, that would be what analysis reference 2. And
Yeah.
design reference 2.
Yeah. Or what you can have is you can put the version, the new version number of the analysis or the reference.
Put it in the bottom, or should it?
With respect to wherever you want to document, maybe you can have another column here. You can split this, and you can say.
Wouldn't that be easier if you have it on the bottom, like 1.1? You have changed to the left.
Anyway,
will be 1, 2, 3.
Anyway, however you want to document. I mean, the goal is to make sure that you are communicating.
Would that be a link? Let's say if I click on CR1 to
you can put it as a link. You can put it as a link to open the document.
Should be, because otherwise how would someone look?
And all these documents are basically uploaded in centralized repositories like SharePoint and so on. Yeah, and where you can document information. Give me 1 second, folks. Hello?
So my question was how do you create that link?
I'm sorry?
How do you create that actual link?
Oh, you have to play around. You have to play around. Yeah. You have to play around.
You were saying that.
No, the SharePoint link, you can just copy paste it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you pick up more data from the repository and go ahead with
Any questions? Any more questions, folks on the line?
One thing is that's great. Okay. And one thing is
Folks on the line or folks in the class, if you have any questions.
So do we do this for each phase?
I'm sorry?
So you know how, like, if you can go back on the top, and it says for the phase, so do we do this for each phase that we're working on, so the project phase?
No, project phase here technically refers to at what stage of the project they are in.
Okay.
Currently. The business analyst is normally a BA is responsible for managing the whole document, and you will get in updates or inputs from the team.
If you were to write project phase, what would you write that you're in the middle of the project?
No, the project phase basically refers to the category of the project. It's not the development design. That's not what.
About what phase you are in.
Just go back. You share all this stuff on SharePoint.
All these requirement documents are actually stored on the SharePoint, or I mean every organization has their own repositories, content management stuff. So most of them use SharePoint because it's easy to control access. Anybody else? Any questions, folks? Okay, so the thing is, we have learned a lot of topics, given in the limited time. But again, I think what the topics and concepts that I have taught, I strongly believe are good enough for you to get the ball rolling. Of course, if you're asking me, is this course good enough to be an expert? No. Once you start, yes, the learning curve there is no end, right? I mean, so I think when you get into the real time, until you get into the real time, you still will be not in a 100% comfortable situation. But I think once you start getting into the project, what I can assure you is that you will be well versed with the terminology and well versed with the concepts as well. I think you should be able to survive, provided that you have worked on all the assignments and all the concepts that we have discussed, and assuming that you understand all the concepts, you should definitely be able to, get through and then be a successful BA in the industry. And the market is definitely catching up. It's very, very aggressive now. Market is good. There are a lot of BA requirements out in the market, and anything that you have to do in terms of preparing yourself for interviews. If you need some mock interview sessions, eventually you can reach out to me. And if you need some help with resumes, you can reach out to the team. Whatever help we can, assist you, will definitely help you. So the folks who are online, you can reach out to my team if you need any assistance with respect to the resume or with respect to the mock interviews or anything. I think you can reach out to our associates on Monday, and whatever help you need, we'll get the ball rolling. Okay. Any questions?
Subhash?
Yeah.
With the requirements traceability metrics, so when we're sharing it, anybody can edit it. So when they edit it, do they put initials there, or do we have a separate control where, obviously I know there are versions with changes, but you would be controlling that. So if anyone else goes and makes a change in there, then how do we know that they've done it?
See, normally SharePoint, whatever content management system that you're using, it will clearly show you who updated it and what did they update.
Okay.
It will show you who was the last person who updated it. So in that way, you can go and compare to see who did what.
Right. Okay. That's fine. Yeah, because there are different tools now. There are doors and stuff like that.
Oh, there are several tools, but I think if you SharePoint is one popular tool, and it's just like as good as a folder where you are clicking into folders and you are retrieving documents.
Also, so requirement traceability metrics, we will also be given a template from whichever
every document, every single document that you will end up working will have a template. So I wouldn't worry about what exactly goes in it, because it varies from organization to organization. And I think, having said that, we have learned the concepts, you should definitely be able to deep dive and understand whatever you're getting in.
Right. Okay. That's fine, because again, with the modernization, like new tools and stuff, you might be documenting requirements directly into a software rather than making a Word document. It might be at the back end. Yeah. So yeah, things can be really different. Okay, that's fine.
In the blog, we have heading for material. Now, is that like a book material or everything?
You look into it. Huh? You look into it. There's a lot of information there.
One I opened the first one and it said it is empty, document is empty.
I think we can talk about that.
You need to download it and then open it.
All right, folks. So if you don't have any questions, then I think I'm done. As I said, the next step, if you need any assistance with respect to the resume or any interviews or preparation or anything, please reach out to my team. And I hope all of you have enjoyed this session. And if you have liked the training program, the best way of saying thank you to us is by referring your friends and family members. So that will be a favor for us. All right. Anybody have any questions, comments about the training?
Yes. When is the mock interview due? And how should we prepare for it?
You can talk to my team. You can follow up with my team, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Hello.
Are they going to share the domain knowledge and all, or is it you who is going to give it?
What domain are we referring to?
Finance or healthcare or something like that.
See, there are so many domains, right? There are healthcare, there are finance, and finance is an ocean. We have loans, mortgages, So until you are looking for a specific business area, because it wouldn't really, to me, it wouldn't make really sense to try to learn everything, because you cannot learn. No individual can learn everything. I mean, I don't know everything, right? So if you have any specific, because financial market is good right now, because healthcare, it has slowed down. It's definitely dead slow right now. The last couple of years there were good requirements, but now it's not the same anymore with the healthcare industry. But I think financial industry is good. You can basically go deep dive into any process, and we can learn any of the business process. We have learned one aspect of the banking, but there are several ways to learn different things. So whatever process that you want, you can basically do some research and you can do and learn about.
Okay, I mean, because I'm a person who didn't start working yet, so I have no idea about what is going on in But
as I said, you cannot learn everything. That's for sure.
Right. There will be some basic terms that they'll be using in.
Yeah, see, as I said, right, when I started, I did not have any business knowledge, so I had to do the research. I learned myself.
Okay. Okay.
When is the best time to contact your team?
You can contact them tomorrow.
Okay. All right. For the next step, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Any comments about the training, the quality?
Hello.
Good, bad?
Hello.
Either way.
Yeah. It was good. Like the notes, I feel like it could be more details, but like the bullet points of the notes were pretty good. Like like when I looked at his note was only like I think like 900. Words. Mine was like 3,000.
Okay. Okay. All right, folks. So thank you very much for attending the class. And as I said, I wish all of you good luck with the next step. And whatever you have learned, please keep practicing it and keep reading new concepts. You will run into a lot of new things. And then be prepared to learn and take this challenge. Okay? And I wish all of you good luck. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, this is the last day of the training program?
That's correct.
Huh?
Sabaj.
Yeah.
Are you going to be in the office tomorrow?
Yes.
I was saying though, this is the last day of training program?
Yes.
Okay, so no assignments?
Yeah, I think maybe we can have a conversation offline. Andrew. All right, folks. Thank you very much.
Just if we want to contact you, is there like an email address or something like that?
Yeah, you can actually contact my team, or I'll also ping you my email address here.
All right, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right, thanks, folks.
Hello?
The class is over, man.
It's over?
Yeah, that's it. It's the last day. You gotta contact him tomorrow for the further steps.
Oh, for the job marking?
Yeah, you gotta contact them tomorrow.